Anchors and Legions, a short story by Kennedy Plum, narrated by Bria Larson. My eyes blink open and the sterile, frigid room comes back into focus. The realization comes to me slowly, and I try to stay calm. The realization that even though this room is empty, I'm not alone. I'll never be alone again. Pause. This is the part where the frame would freeze and my voice would come on in the background saying something like, "You're probably wondering how I got here." Listen, I'm not going to fool myself into thinking anyone actually cares how I got here, but for clarity's sake, let's back up a little bit. 30 hours earlier. Now don't worry, dear. You don't have to make a final decision yet. You still have time to think about it. These are just the options you'll have to choose from when you come back tomorrow. Quinn? Are you listening? I shake out of my trance and apologize to the doctor quickly, straightening in the chair that sits across from her bulky mahogany desk. Yes, of course. I'm sorry. She smiles knowingly, as if she can sense that I'm totally freaking out. Not like really freaking out, just the kind of mild freaking out you do when, although you've known something was going to happen your entire life, it just always felt like a faraway dream, and now it's a happening tomorrow dream, and your whole future depends on you making a life-changing decision. But no pressure. I swipe through the tablet she has given me, looking but not really seeing the options. As I pause on each page and a cloud of colors and textures materializes in 3D in front of me. They're all impressive, sure, but I'm too distracted to really tell the difference between them. We've given each of them a human name to make you feel a bit more comfortable, she explains. She gestures to the tablet and the grainy purplish-blue cloud projected above it. And the aura collages were created uniquely for each legion, based on what consultants feel best matches their energies. Making the biggest decision of my life based on energies. Totally reassuring. I swipe to the next page. Louise, with a misty-looking aura of blush pink, pastel orange, and a light yellow. What the hell is that supposed to tell me about her energy? That she likes Easter? My hands start to sweat, and I feel myself quickly starting to slip from mildly freaking out into really freaking out, so I snap the cover back over the screen and smile at the doctor. I'll have to think about it a little more. Of course, dear. She smiles, the skin around her gray eyes wrinkling. You're actually the only female unifying we have scheduled for tomorrow, so you can go ahead and keep that for the night if you'd like. I mutter my goodbyes and stumble clumsily over to the doorway at the other side of the room, trying to shove the tablet deeper into my already too full backpack, squishing my statistics homework in the process, but it refuses to zip up. I drop it, partially unzipped, by the cool metal of the doorway, the exit still sealed tightly. I pull my atmosphere vest off the coat rack and slip it over my shoulders, flipping on the switch. I feel its weight settling on my shoulders, getting heavier and heavier as it fills up. You'd think I'd be as buff as a bodybuilder, having to lug this thing around all the time. But nope, still scrawny like a ferret with extra long arms and an incredible amount of self-deprecation, that is. I fumble with the mask that hangs off the vest shoulder, the cord always managing to get tangled somehow, no matter how carefully I hang it up. I finally untangle the beast and secure the clear plastic mask over my nose and mouth. I wait to feel the cool air on my lips before grabbing my backpack and signaling to the door that I'm ready. It slides open and lets me step out of the dimly lit office and into the blinding bright white of the vestibule. It blasts me with chilly, cleansing air, and then allows me to step outside. The door to the vestibule slides shut behind me, and I begin wrestling again with the zipper of my backpack, barely paying attention to where I'm walking. Which, of course, is when I run right into none other than Alec Tompkinson, my crush since 4th grade. Why, universe? He stumbles back from the force of my hit, nearly spilling his lunch tray all over his atmosphere vest and his perfectly fitted maroon polo. We all wear the same one, but it's like the school uniform gods made this one just for him. All words decide to flee my brain at this exact moment, so I just blubber. I'm so sorry. Are you... He chuckles, his perfectly straight teeth still unfairly, blindingly white, even under the clear plastic of the mask suctioned to his face. It's all good, Quinn. My fault for... walking, he says with a smirk that makes me want to unzip out of my skin and bury myself in a hole. Yeah, you should probably be more careful, I joke, trying to play off the pink blush spreading on my cheeks. You excited for your big day tomorrow? It's a perfectly normal question, but it makes my stomach drop. I try to play that off too. Oh yeah, I say casually. The party should be a blast. We got a DJ and everything. He snorts. I meant you're unifying, but yeah, that will be fun. You're coming? I try not to let the excited surprise show on my face, forcing my expression to remain perfectly composed. Yeah, wouldn't miss it, he says with a smile. A real smile, not one of those I feel bad for you smiles. And just like that, he's gone, and I'm left melting into the floor. Alec freaking Tompkinson is coming to my birthday party. I have to find Ren. No way, she gasps, loud enough that it's like she's just witnessed a horrifying dismembering type accident, but I know it's just Ren being Ren. Drew Hart cut off all his hair. I find him discreetly over my shoulder as I pull my elbow into a stretch. Shame, I say with a click of my tongue. You gotta admit, he still looks good though. She sighs dramatically. Only Drew Hart could still look that gorgeous with a buzz cut. Our gym teacher, Mrs. Appleby, blows her whistle, signifying that it's time for us to move over to the free weights corner of the room and begin our self-evaluations. I groan as I heave myself up, straightening my shorts and then offering my hand to help Ren up. She takes my hand theatrically as if I'm a footman, helping her into a pumpkin carriage before the ball. What would I do without you, she jokes as she stands up elegantly. You'd have to hang out with your brother instead. She gives me a look of disgust. Kill me. The 9 months in the womb was long enough. We bonded in second grade over our mutual dislike of our older siblings, and the fact that we both had the same kind of gel pens. Best friends ever since. Well, except for that time in 6th grade when we had a year-long fight over a boy. But we don't talk about that. Mrs. Appleby hands us each a mini clipboard and a piece of paper with a chart on it, which is where we're supposed to record our stats. I open my mouth to complain, but Mrs. Appleby cuts me off with a look. I don't want to hear it, Quinn. You know this is part of your semester grade, she says, handing a clipboard to another student. She has to know that we're all just going to be watching the seniors the whole time, so the data from this evaluation won't be very valid, you know, scientifically. That's all I'm saying. The rest of our class pairs off and fills into the machines and bench presses around this section of the room. Ren sits at a machine with a diagram of a muscly bicep on it and hands me her clipboard. The trick, she whispers to me knowingly, as she sets the machine to the lowest weight, is to keep your starting weight low. Then you'll show more progress next semester and get a higher grade. What would I do without you? I repeat back to her teasingly. Definitely fail gym for starters. She starts her reps, and my attention returns to the seniors. They've set up a huge square mat in the center of the gym, the edges all around it roped off like a wrestling ring. The senior gym teacher, Coach Schneider, holds a clipboard of his own and whistles to get their attention. He calls out 2 names: Marie Guerrero, Tommy Phillips, musculature hypertrophy. Tommy's friends erupt in laughter all around him, doling out mocking punches and jeers at Tommy having been paired up with a girl, especially one of Marie's stature. Tommy shoves them back, an arrogant smile on his lips as he steps up to the ring. He hops over the roping with ease. I don't know Tommy very well, even though our moms are on the PTA together. I know all I need to know. He's a cocky douchebag on the school lacrosse team, and he and his half-brained friends often terrorize kids around school for fun. My heart drops to my stomach as Marie steps out from the group slowly, her face red from embarrassment at everyone's eyes being on her, a shy slouch in her small shoulders. Oh no, this is not going to be good. She stumbles over the ropes clumsily, nearly falling into the ring. She steps in front of Tommy, folding her arms across her chest tightly like she's trying to keep her organs from falling out. Coach, Tommy barks out a disbelieving scoff from his spot on the mat, gesturing to Marie's tiny frame. You sure about this? Schneider's only reply is a short blow of his whistle, signifying it's time to begin. What is Schneider thinking? Ren whispers in shock as we trade places on the machine. That poor girl is going to get broken in half. I heard Tommy's hypertrophy is so potent it could break Principal Overton's all-time record. It definitely looks like it's coming in strong, I reply, settling into position on the bench without taking my eyes off the ring. I mean, look at his arms. They're twice the size they were last year. With any luck, Marie will decide to just forfeit and let Tommy win by default. I barely notice the pull from the machine in my own measly biceps, and I lose count of my reps at least 3 times. Everyone else in our class seems to be equally distracted. Even Mrs. Appleby watches intently, no doubt questioning whether Coach Schneider is trying to get fired. Maybe Marie's legion is ergokinetic, Wren whispers, and I nod in hopeful agreement. The air thickens with anticipation as Tommy steps closer to Marie, a hush falling over the whole gym. She's as still as a statue, still holding her arms tight across her chest. She takes a clumsy step back in subconscious retreat, not like she wants to give up, but like it's just her body's natural instinct to someone like Tommy. I don't blame her. Look, I don't want to hurt you, Tommy says, loudly enough for everyone in the room to hear. But the arrogant glint in his eyes says he's not going to lose either. It's like the breath freezes in my lungs as Marie raises her chin to meet his eyes. She's not going to give up. She's going to try to fight him. Oh, she's going to get herself killed. You got this, Em, someone yells encouragingly from the crowd. She takes a deep breath to fortify herself, her hands forming into tiny fists. Tommy's friends explode with laughter at the sight, like wild hyenas who have smelled the blood of their prey. Tommy smells it too. He smiles, taking another step forward. I can't tear my eyes away. I've lost count of my reps again, but I don't even try to start over. All I can do is watch the ring. In a rocket-quick motion, Tommy rears his arm back and thrusts it forward with such force I swear I can feel the blast of air all the way over here. I cringe with gut-wrenching anticipation, as I expect his punch to meet Marie's body like lightning cracking across a stormy sky, but it doesn't. She stops the blow just mere centimeters away from her shoulder, clenching Tommy's fist in her own tiny hands. She just holds it there, with what looks like nothing more than mild exertion on her part. Wren and I share a gasp, looking at each other with wide eyes. There is 1 millisecond of surprise on Tommy's face, one that I wish I could save in a photograph and reference back to whenever I'm having a bad day, before Marie leans into his fist and pushes him so hard he flies back several feet. He lands straight on his butt heavily, so hard he nearly bounces off the mat. The look of shock he once wore is now red-faced fury as the entire gym laughs at his expense. I jump up from the machine with a shocked laugh cackle as Wren does a victory dance with our clipboards, so enthusiastically you'd think she was the one in the ring. She shouts mockeries at Tommy like a kid on a playground with pointing and everything. Marie's body folds in on itself again, shyly, as the crowd grows eardrum-shatteringly enthusiastic on her behalf, but a tiny smile creeps onto the corners of her lips. Tommy lets out a furious growl-like shout, pushing himself off the mat and charging at Marie in tackle formation. She leans into the tackle, rooting herself to the mat like she's a linebacker, bracing for impact. We collectively hold our breath, the walls of the gym seeming to contract like a lung. There is an audible crack as Tommy's body meets hers, and to everyone's surprise, he falls back like a bird bouncing off a glass window. No, a brick wall. The already wild crowd goes crazier as Schneider blows the whistle and announces Marie as the winner. Her shy smile widens as she climbs over the ropes, met by chaotic hugs and cheers and pats on the back as she makes her way back to her friends. Wow, really did not see that coming. But for once, I'm happy to be surprised. What is not surprising, however, are Tommy's shouts at Schneider in furious protest, saying it was unfair and he just didn't want to hurt her. He begs for a rematch with a new partner, but he is waved off the mat as Coach makes final notes on his clipboard. I can't wait for Tommy to get home from school today and have to explain to his parents that he got his butt kicked in gym class. I wish I could be a fly in the wall for that conversation. $100 says he sticks with the she cheated excuse, though. This is the best thing I've seen in weeks, Wren says brightly, and I agree. Mrs. Appleby blows her whistle at our class. All right, show's over. Get back to your evals. We pretend to resume our workouts, but the energy is different now after what we've just witnessed. The excitement spreading among us is tangible, like we're all connected by a tight electricity-charged wire. We all share the same thought. Senior year can't come soon enough. Some are excited about having their turn on the mats, to show everyone their fancy new abilities after their unifyings. For me, it's just one step closer to graduation and getting out of this sweat-soaked gym forever. Coach Schneider blows his whistle to quiet the room and is about to announce the next pair when he is interrupted by the gym doors bursting open with a crash. Armed guards rush in through all exits, surrounding the room on all sides within seconds. Ren grabs my arm, her nails digging into my skin. We stand frozen next to each other, barely breathing. 2 guards rush forward and snatch a boy out of the senior crowd, dragging him across the floor, while another guard makes an announcement to the room. "We have received reports," he announces, "that Justin Knoxley has misrepresented his Legion's abilities and will be detained for further investigation." Justin's protests are lost among the murmurs and whispers around the room. Goosebumps prickle on my arms as a chill passes down my spine. Doesn't Justin know the consequences for those kinds of allegations? I mean, how could he not? They only remind us like every other day in class. Treason. Coach Schneider gives a nod to the announcer in understanding, and they drag Justin out of the gym, his shouts echoing off the walls as they pass down the maze of hallways. The rest of the guards follow, their boots marching in a unified rhythm. It's like we can still hear his screams even after they've exited the school entirely. They linger in the walls. Schneider and Mrs. Appleby do their best to quiet us down and get our attention back to our tasks. But the question in the air remains, is it true? What could Justin possibly have to gain from misrepresenting his abilities? Why would he do that, knowing all it would cost him? I shudder at the thought. I barely hear Mom's question as I'm still lost in thought about what happened at school today. The whiplash of the 2 different ends of the continuum, the thrill of Marie's victory, and then Justin's panic echoing down the hallways. His scared shouts still seem to reverberate in my brain. I realize everyone is staring at me, which makes me jolt back to reality. I clear my throat, picking up my cutlery as casually as I can manage. Pretty good. We got to watch some senior training sessions in gym class today. "Oh?" Mom says, using her fork to cut the roasted potatoes on her plate in half. "Did you see any cool abilities?" Across the table, Dad takes a bite of his food and joins the conversation. "Any that look to be force-worthy?" He smiles proudly at my older sister Evie, who sits at the place setting next to him. She beams back at him, and I nearly groan in disgust. "Oh, Dad," she says sweetly. "You know I was just really blessed with an extra talented Legion, that's all. It could have happened to anyone." "We know, honey." Mom's voice is thick with sugar-coated pride. "But we can still be proud of our special girl." I have to make a notable effort not to gag on my vegetables, but in doing so, I can't control my eyes rolling into the back of my head. My oh-so-special sister with her oh-so-special Legion and her oh-so-special gig with the Force. Mom and Dad's abilities aren't anything special, so Evie's telekinesis came as a surprise to everyone, especially the government. She was recruited to the Force within days of her first post-unifying evaluation. All she had to do was report that she imagined something moving in her head, and it just moved, and they snatched her up without a second thought. Before she had even graduated high school, before she had even really finished the unifying process. Well, nothing could ever be as force-worthy as our special girl, I say in mock sweetness, but I did see a tiny girl beat the crap out of Tommy Phillips, so that was fun. My parents don't pick up on my sarcasm, but Evie does, and she shoots me a glare across her glass as she takes a sip of her sweet tea. "Really?" Mom's voice is full of breathy awe. "The Phillips will tell anyone who'll listen how potent Tommy's abilities are." I shrug. "He's either lying or Marie has the strongest Legion in history, probably." "Wow, isn't that something?" Dad says, his mouth still full of food, which makes me cringe. The wall behind Mom awakens with a calendar reminder. It blinks on the wall with a red outline. An important event. I already know what it will say before it reads itself. Reminder: Quinn St. Clair's unifying appointment is in exactly 24 hours. Mom and Dad both smile at me, and my stomach clenches. With the excitement of the day, I almost forgot about the tablet of Legion options weighing down my backpack like a 100-pound paperweight. "How are you feeling about it, Quinny?" Mom asks. Are you nervous? It's perfectly normal to be nervous. Before I can answer, Evie's watch lets out a high-pitched beeping. She wipes her mouth with her napkin and stands in the most annoyingly illustrious way, like she's accepting a Medal of Honor or like she's just won an Oscar. Duty calls, she says, winking right at me. My eyes, they really do have a mind of their own sometimes, roll again so hard they nearly scratch my brain. Be careful, sweetheart, Mom calls after her, as she strides gallantly out of the room. Go kick some rebel butt, Dad says, unnecessarily because she's already gone. He chuckles to himself, as if he said something funny. We go back to eating our dinner, munching on our roast and potatoes in silence, and I don't answer Mom's question. She's already forgotten anyways. After dinner, we walk to the square for tonight's initiation ceremony. Mom and Dad chatter together about work, but I tune them out and amble behind them distractedly, fidgeting with the Velcro straps on my vest. Our neighbors, the Alexanders, walk behind us. Their new baby is cooing contently in her atmosphere pod, the shell of plastic protecting her from the toxins, like our masks do. I don't really care for babies, but I have to admit, she's pretty cute. It's a beautiful night. The dark red sky overhead is prickled with stars, the clearest night I've seen in a while. It's a perfectly pleasant temperature with a warm summer breeze, but my skin prickles icily. With every minute that passes, it just gets closer and closer to the deadline of my decision, and I'm no closer to that decision than I was hours ago in the doctor's office at school. It's not that I'm worried about the procedure itself or the unifying process. I've learned about that in school my whole life. But how do I know which one to pick? What if I choose the wrong one and I'm thrust into the force like Evie? Some people want that fame and responsibility. But to me, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. The constant public eye and the pressure and danger of service, the constant accolades and attention from strangers just because of the emblem on the uniform. The scary unknowns as you navigate a crazy new ability and learning how to control it with everyone watching. No. I'd much rather just have a quiet existence like Mom and Dad. I just want an ordinary ability and an ordinary job. Is that too much to ask? I'll take Dad's not useful to the force body temperature adaptation ability and his quiet and completely no-pressure HR job in a heartbeat. Even Mom's ability of comfort, though it does come in handy as a preschool teacher, is so low-key that no one ever pays her a second glance. That's all I want. How do I make that happen, when all I know about the Legion is her name and aura? I don't even know what an aura is. If someone pointed a gun to my head and said, "Describe your aura or I'll shoot," I'd be dead within seconds. We approach the square and walk down the steps into the round concrete amphitheater. Straight-faced guards surround the square, their masks a translucent black instead of clear like the rest of us. They stand in ready positions in case anything too crazy happens. It never does, though, unfortunately. These ceremonies are nothing more than a mandatory snooze fest. I sit next to my parents on our assigned row, just a slab of hard concrete molded into a rectangle that is just as uncomfortable as it looks, and the Alexanders fill in the rest of the row next to me. There are 3 initiates lined up next to the podium, 2 boys, 1 girl. I don't know their names. They must go to Northview. Their hands are tucked behind their backs confidently, proud smiles on their faces. Will my posture be as confident next year, when my process is complete? Will my smile be as proud? A hush falls over the amphitheater as Mayor Kingsley steps up to the microphone. "Neighbors," he says, both his hands clutching either side of the podium, like he's about to give a sermon and call us to repentance. "Thank you for being here today to welcome our newest initiates, Haley, Cooper, and Wesley, and to witness them make their oaths of service. We're proud to welcome their new abilities into our community, and we appreciate their service to our nation." He says it like, the oath of service is just another everyday choice, like whether you want your eggs scrambled or fried. When really you have to pledge to use your abilities only in ways that benefit the community. So it's more like, here are your eggs, they're scrambled, whether you like it or not. He pauses, and everyone claps. I look down at the lower rows, trying to find the back of Wren's head, but it's nearly impossible to see anything around Mr. Murphy's giant frame a few rows down. They really should reconsider the seating chart. and put those who inherited elephant-like abilities, cuff Mr. Murphy, in the back. Mayor Kingsley introduces the initiation video, which is completely unnecessary since we watch the same one every single time, and the lights around the amphitheater dim. Kingsley and the initiates step aside so everyone can see the projection on the far wall behind them. The projection lights up, and the video begins with the rockets and their fiery clouds of smoke blasting off into the air, the camera following their ascent. My attention wanders as the narrator's voice comes on the surround sound, booming and dramatic and grating. I accidentally make eye contact with a guard, and I blink in surprise as he tightens his grip on his rifle and nods toward the video curtly. Did he just threaten me? Well, geez, somebody's taking their job way too seriously. I return my attention to the video obediently, over-exaggerating my new undivided attention in case he's still watching. The temperature seems to drop a few degrees, a chillier breeze sending goosebumps up my bare arms. I run my palms up my arms to try to warm them up. Dad notices. He keeps his eyes on the video, but rests his hand on my knee. It only takes seconds to feel heat radiating from his hand and onto my skin. I sigh as the warmth of his ability travels up my body. I smile at him in thanks. The narrator continues his speech as the video switches to a view of Earth from space. The space race with Earth turned violent and ugly, as new planets and new life forms were discovered. Wars and bloody conflicts ensued as the questions arose. Who would get ownership over these new discoveries? Could diplomatic agreements ever be made between our two planets? It switches to footage of the invasion. Explosions, carnage, space shuttles falling from the sky, destruction of homes, and people crying. The narrator continues with a dramatic tone. The legions answered those questions with blood. They took the ownership for themselves, inhabiting every planet they came across. Widespread panic and chaos ensued for the next 5 years as the legions overtook. Earth fell to their rule. I cringe, as I always do, as it shows the next part. It shows a legion, its wormy body and hundreds of legs, crawling up a woman's back. The woman screams as it makes an incision into the back of her neck with its pincers and slips into her spinal cord. Her scream breaks off like she has choked on it as the legion disappears completely into her body. Her eyes go deathly blank, staring widely ahead without seeing. I shiver. Fortunately, the narrator says, we were able to make peace before our planet fell to the same fate as Earth's. A treaty was formed and a mutually beneficial arrangement was agreed upon. The unifying was created, a way for our species to coexist. The video shows doctors surrounding a girl on a surgical table and then pans to post-op when she is recovered and happy. It shows her completing everyday tasks with a smile on her face, seemingly unaffected by the process. Since the treaty was signed, both of our species have thrived. The video goes black, cutting off the narrator mid-sentence. The lights around the amphitheater darken. The audience looks at each other in confusion for a brief, quiet second. Then the screaming begins. Pops and bangs echo throughout the amphitheater. Explosions of light and heat seem to blast in every direction, my ears ringing so loudly that the screams around me are muffled. Like we've just dived into the ocean and everything is now underwater. Rebels. Dad pulls me down onto the ground next to him, his hand firmly on my back, keeping me as low as possible. There is an explosion right above our heads and I feel sparks tingle across my back. I steal a peek up around Dad's shoulder. Guards are firing at shadowed figures, who seem to multiply and regenerate every second as more and more of them fill into the amphitheater, bringing with them more angry, fiery bangs. Dad pulls my hand with him as he inches forward in a crawl, following Mom to the outer steps. The Alexanders retreat the other way. I send a prayer to the moons that their baby will be okay, grateful to not hear any cries coming from their direction. Yet, a black boot stops us in our tracks. I look up. The rebel is masked, fully covered in black from head to toe. Only edges of dark eyes show under a matte helmet. A black handgun hangs at his side, his hand gripping it tightly. Threateningly. We try to inch backward, but another booted figure steps in from behind, an equally loaded, equally threatening gun in his hand as well. We're trapped. The rebel in front uses his boot to push Mom from her crawl onto her knees. She whimpers. I wish I could pass a message to her to use her power. Maybe sending them comfort would help us get away. But anything I do or say could hasten our deaths, so I just stay frozen. Dad sits up on his knees, his palms up in surrender. Please let my family go. We've done nothing wrong. The one behind us barks out a cruel, muffled laugh under his helmet. You alien scum always think you're so innocent. Suddenly, the air around us lightens, a whooshing feeling as the light breeze turns to wind, blasting strands of my hair from its braid. My heart lifts with hope. It's the Force. Rebels start dropping in all directions as the Force moves in. The rebel in front of us leans down hastily and pulls Mom's hair back, pressing the gun to her forehead. Dad lurches forward, but before he can make contact, the rebel flies backwards through the air, crunching into the concrete ledge that marks the outer perimeter of the amphitheater. Within 2 blinks, the one behind us is launched right into him, smashing his partner deeper into the ledge with his own body weight. Are you guys okay? A breathless but familiar voice behind us calls out. We turn at the voice, at our redemption. It's Evie. Of course it's Evie. The golden child is here to save the day. I'm sitting at my desk, my knee bouncing anxiously as I scroll through the legions for the millionth time. Emmeline, Magnolia, Bonnie. Every time I think I've made a decision, I just second-guess myself all over again. I wish I could make Ren or my mom or anyone else make this decision for me, so I have someone to blame if they make the wrong choice. The silence of my room just fuels my anxiety. It's so quiet that I swear I can hear my blood pumping through my veins. The buzz of my light bulbs, the whoosh of the cool air coming in through the vents in the ceiling. I can faintly hear the bustle of the caterer and DJ setting up their tables and equipment in the basement, their indiscernible voices just a muddle of noises. There are footsteps outside my room and a light knock follows. Mom steps in, a smile on her face. "Happy birthday," she says in a sing-songy way. I give her a tight smile. Thanks, Mom. She sits on the edge of my bed, taking my hand. Everything is going to be okay, she says, giving my hand a squeeze. And it's like a blanket of warmth wraps around my shoulders, melting the anxiety out through my fingertips. My throat loosens for what feels like the first time in ages. And how long have I been holding my breath? A feeling of peace spreads through my chest. I chuckle. You're unwinding me, aren't you? She smiles, putting her hand on my cheek. You're going to do great today. I'm so proud of you. She stands and swivels my desk chair around so I'm facing the opposite direction. She squeezes my shoulder, running a brush through my long hair. We sit in a comfortable silence as she braids my hair, sending trickles of peace through my scalp with every twist. I don't mind that the warm blanket is an illusion, that the feeling of comfort isn't real. Because for just a moment, I don't stress over which legion to pick. I don't agonize over the possibility of choosing wrong or messing up the unifying somehow. I just relax and let my mom do my hair for my party, and it's actually really nice. Cassia, I say, handing the tablet back to the doctor, but my voice breaks and it comes out as a toad-like croak. I clear my throat and try again, blurting it out quickly before I can change my mind again. I've decided on Cassia. In my deliberations, I kept coming back to Cassia, drawn to her for some reason. I think it's because her aura reminds me of my favorite season, a mist of deep mahogany and burnt orange with crisp yellow edges, like the changing leaves of autumn. Her aura looks to me like how it would sound when you'd crunch the fallen leaves under your boots, hopping from one leaf to the next. It reminds me of my childhood. Wistful and shy, with warm, crackling embers sparking under the surface. Cassia, the doctor confirms, making a note on her clipboard. Lovely choice, my dear. She gestures for me to stand, and I follow her through the door behind her desk and into a different room. It looks normal enough. There is a hospital bed in the center with a small side table next to it that holds a TV remote and a few bottles of water on its surface. A stiff fake plant sits in the corner, adding a muted splash of color to the otherwise gray room. There is a neat pile on the bed. A hideous floral hospital gown with a pair of socks folded on top. The doctor pulls a small cup from the dispenser on the counter. She unlocks the cabinet, takes out a white pill bottle, and drops 2 pills into the cup. These are to help the unifying process go smoothly. she says. Her tone is tight, but not unfriendly, like she's said these exact words so many times that they just roll off her tongue automatically. It's just a precaution to reduce any possibility of the legion rejecting the process. Afterwards, you'll take these every 12 hours for the next 4 weeks. You shouldn't have any side effects as long as you're consistent with the medication. But in the very small likelihood that your legion attempts to communicate with you, make sure to report it immediately and we'll increase your dosage. She picks up the hospital gown and hands it to me with a smile, as if she didn't just drop several atomic bombs on me, one after the other, and now I'm flattened into the ground. Side effects? Communicate? Rejecting the process? I think of the woman from the initiation video. Her gray, empty eyes, her brain and body and entire being completely out of her control, her limbs limp, awaiting a command. Nothing but an anchor now, dead weight just waiting to be put to use. I barely notice as the doctor shuffles out of the room, the door clicking behind her. I'm frozen for a second, the hospital gown resting on my lap. I wish Mom were here. I'd give anything for her blanket of comfort right now, for that warm feeling of security and peace. I know her and Dad are waiting right outside, but I wish they could be in here with me, to squeeze my hand and to reassure me that this is what I've been waiting my whole life for, that soon I'll be part of a community. Soon I'll be special. I try to summon the warmth of that bubbly joy I felt when Alec Tompkinson asked me to dance at my party earlier. The way it felt like an excited scream was ballooning in my chest, threatening to burst at any second. His hand on my hip, my hand on his shoulder. I've never been so happy. I let the happiness of that memory ground me, taking a few deep breaths as I slip off my clothes. This is what growing up is all about, right? I pull the gown over my head, tying it behind me, the frigid air of the room cutting in through the giant gaping slit in the back that leaves my entire backside exposed. Humiliating. Relax. Think Alec thoughts. Think Alec thoughts. I take another breath and shuffle shakily over to the counter where the cup of pills sits. It trembles in my hand as I pick it up. I step over to get a bottle of water from the side table, but my foot catches on the leg of the hospital bed, and I lurch forward onto my hands and knees. The pills fly across the room and, to my horror, roll right into the tiny space under the cabinets. Quinn, you useless, clumsy sack of garbage. I tried desperately to reach the pills, muttering expletives under my breath and every way to insult myself I can think of. The skin on my arm scrapes off as I try to shove them deeper, uselessly, into the too small space. My hands barely fit a few inches. No pills. There's no way I can tell the doctor I dropped the pills. She'd report me right away. Excessive nerves is a huge red flag. She's not ready, she'd tell my parents, and we'd have to do the walk of shame all the way home. I'd have to attend intervention appointments for weeks where they'd examine me under a microscope, poking and prodding, making sure to smooth out all the tiny cracks in me until they deem me fit to undergo the procedure. If ever. I jump to my feet as there is a knock at the door. The surgeons file in, ready to begin. Oh dear. Pause. Well, now we're caught up and you've seen every humiliating detail. I know. But if you thought watching me embarrass myself was entertaining, just wait till you get to the plot twist. Okay, ready? Unpause. Is that a word? I mean, play, resume, roll the tapes. There is a new weight to my body, like I've been pumped up with a thick sludge and it oozes up my neck and into my brain and down my back. I wiggle my toes and fingers, trying to wake up my limbs from their heavy numbness. The realization comes to me slowly, and I try to stay calm. The realization that even though this room is empty, I'm not alone. I'll never be alone again. I try to keep my breaths at a regular pace. In, out, in, out. I didn't take the pills, but it should still be okay, right? The doctor said side effects are rare. The likelihood of the legion rejecting the procedure is minimal, right? An anxious feeling prickles at the back of my neck, a panic that feels almost out of place, like it doesn't quite belong to me. Hello? Are you there? A voice vibrates in my brain and I let out a gasp. It's her, Cassia. Hello? Can you hear me? Please don't alert the doctor. I need your help. My throat is frozen shut so tightly I can barely breathe. She's communicating. a side effect the pills were supposed to suppress. Please, she begs, that out-of-place panic intensifying at the top of my spine. The treaty is a lie. Your people are murderers. We've been hunted nearly to extinction and silenced. The unifying process kills us. Please listen to me. You and I are the only ones who can help. The end. This has been Anchors and Legions by Kennedy Plum, narrated by Bria Larson. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.